Assalamu alaikum, Jake. It is 21st of July 2020. This is Edip Yuksel. This is Jake Brancatella. He's an Italian friend of mine. I met him when I went to New Jersey. You came over to meet me at my sister's home, correct?
Yes.
And there
yes.
we had also a good talk about Quran alone. That time you followed the Quran alone, but later you changed your mind. And first of all, I commend you for having the courage to question your Christian background and accepting Quran alone message, becoming a peacemaker. And later you also continue discussions and investigation. And the current station you are at, you think that Quran alone is not what the Quran promotes. You came to the idea of Quran plus Sunna or Hadith that you find okay. And, and this is really by itself, though I disagree with your current station, your current position, but you are a courageous person. And it's not easy to change, to questions one's religion. And doing it, in fact, the second time, it takes a lot of guts and also honesty. You're honest with yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself, you will not be honest with God. And also, I see you are not just following the whims, certain emotional things, rather than your reasoning. And I printed in 2 pages your summary of reasons why. The title says, Irrefutable Responses to Sunnah Rejectors by Jack Brancatella. Irrefutable responses, though it is a
that's the dispute.
Yeah, that's okay. I like it. I like challenges. And in that one, you showed the reasons, a deep thought and argument for why you chose to go to Quran Plus. Okay.
Yes. So, and just for the audience who may be aware, we both recently appeared on Mufti Abu Layth's podcast, and we had a discussion. And so we're continuing the discussion here to clear up some points where we disagree and be able to speak about them. So, yeah, of course, you read my article. So if you'd like to start there, I can explain why I changed my mind about supporting the Quran alone position, and we can go from there.
Can you first summarize the position of the Quran alone? Just the title of their argument again is Quran plus Hadith and Sunnah and Mazahib, whatever they are.
So Quran alone, generally speaking, means that as Muslims, we should only be following the Quran for a religious source of guidance for the deen of Islam. You see, they reject any hadith or sunnah apart from the Quran as being necessary to be followed. Not only that, the claim is that anyone who does so is committing shirk. And this is a point that I mentioned on the discussion with Mufti Abu Layth, which he seemed a little bit confused about. He was under the impression that it was more of an epistemological problem. That is that somehow Quran alone people feel that the transmission of the Sunnah was problematic and therefore they reject it. Now that is a secondary argument, but more fundamentally, the Quran alone position rejects the very concept of following this quote-unquote Sunnah itself. So that is a point where I am now differing. and trying to have a discussion with you about should we really reject the concept of Sunnah as a whole in general, and what does the Quran promote? Does it promote following strictly only the Quran for the deen, or does it promote following the Quran and Sunnah?
Okay,
and so yes.
Let me very fast, maybe in 2 minutes, summarize our position against Hadith and Sunnah Muhammad and stuff. Okay. One, it is epistemological issue. In fact, epistemology means the authority of also certain knowledge, the authority and reliability, or the quality, quantity, and the range of information. All the questions about the information is called epistemological issue. Epistemologically, we are against it, not only reliability of the information, and also about the authenticity or authority of that information, okay?
Right.
Therefore, we think that it doesn't have authority. And the reason is the Islam is a system by God, not by Muhammad, not God plus Muhammad, God plus messenger. This is one thing. مخلصين له الدين فلا يشئن الحكم إلا لله. The judgment belongs to God. فلا يشرك بحكم ربه أحدا. Do not associate any partner with God. وإن المساجد لله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. Many verses. And second, the messenger's job, mission is listed in the Quran as only tabligh, the messenger as a messenger. Of course, Muhammad was a father figure. He has other roles. He was also a husband. He was also the leader of Mecca, Medina city-state. He had other roles while he was alive. But as a messenger, which those roles as a husband is no more relevant, he's dead. His role as a leader of community is no more viable, he's dead. The only role that is relevant for us, his messengership, means being the postman, mailman of God. And the same word messenger, Rasul, is used for Pharaoh's. وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ. The second point is, for messenger, there is no job except tabligh. And the Quran states what Prophet Muhammad delivered, chapter 6, verse 19. قُلْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ لِأُنذِرَكُمْ بِهِ وَمَنْ بَلَغَ. To warn you and those who receive the book. It doesn't say هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ وَالْحَدِيث, هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ وَالْبُخَارِ, هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ وَالسُنَّةِ. And three, Muhammad, when God says obey God and messenger, it doesn't mean separate them. In fact, the Quran warns us not to separate messenger from God as the second source. And it says it is hypocrites who are separating God from the messenger. God is the Quran, messenger means not the Quran, but Hadith, Sunnah. This is, according to Quran, is a diversion. And in fact, the chapter 9 starts, أَتِيُوا اللَّهَ وَأَتِيُوا الرَّسُولِ. No, I'm sorry. بَرَاءَةٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. It is ultimatum from God and his messenger. It is very obvious that messenger is not a second source. When messenger is mentioned after God, it doesn't mean he is a second source. He is the delivery of the message of the ultimatum. Therefore, God mentions in the beginning of chapter 9. It doesn't mean, as the followers of Hadith and Sunnah understand, this chapter is the product of God plus Muhammad. They sat down, they decided, they thought, they discussed, they decided on this ultimatum. No, Muhammad had no word in that one. It's all from God. God mentions Muhammad because he was the one going to deliver us. And also reliability of Hadith comes, and the Quran says, do not follow zan, conjecture. All Hadith sources are the conjecture, even the mutawatir ones, the strongest Hadith. In fact, Sunnis, they do not follow their biggest Hadith, 3 Hadiths, the strongest Hadith, the most mutawatir Hadith, they trash it. The most hadith most heard by many people, like Hajjat al-Wada, they distort the most important crucial word of it, statement of it. And the last hadith, they also trash that hadith. Again, three most superlative hadiths, they don't follow their own hadith. But hadith, we know that it was not written during the time of Prophet Muhammad, neither afterwards. It was Bukhari, comes 230 years, and all Sunni hadith gatherers, they are Iranian Persians, and it is collection of hearsays. And the other point, the hadith books are the books of collected by evil in order to distort message of the Quran, to insult Prophet Muhammad, to attribute lies to God and Muhammad. And from stoning to death, to misogynistic laws, to prohibitions of almost so many blessings are music, chess playing, and many, or killing the murtads, and many things is based on hadith. And Muhammad is depicted as a schizophrenic, multiple personality. He's sometimes more merciful than God, like in Mi'raj. He bargains with God in our favor. God imposes on us so much difficult thing. And then on the other hand, he gouges people's eyes with hot nails and stuff. So much trouble with hadith. Now come to your arguments. I want you to make your arguments against, not against, for hadith and sunnah. Please, it's your turn.
Yes. Okay. So in chapter 6, verse 19, you mentioned, because I just want to clarify one thing for myself and for the listeners. You quoted 6:19, and I'm reading from your Reformist translation. You have a subheading above the verse, a heading above the verse. It says, Muhammad was given only the Quran. So can you please explain to us what you mean when you say that Muhammad only was given the Quran? Because I want to know, and this is going to get us to start to talk about the article that I wrote. I want to know if you are claiming that the only information that Muhammad received from God was the Quran, or did he receive other information from Allah that was not the Quran? Because if we read your heading here quite literally, it gives us the impression that no, the only information he received from God was the Quran. So could you please explain this?
Yeah, the verse explains itself. The verse talks about that the only book is given to Muhammad to deliver to humans, to people, was the Quran. Did Muhammad receive personal some revelation? Of course, and I received too. Even bees receive revelation from God, personal, but they are not messenger of God telling you to follow this one. It is for them. And Mary was not prophet, was not messenger, but she received revelation from God. And in my life, once I received the revelation from God, 100%, I am not, I have no doubt, because it fulfilled certain prophetic events happened following that thing. But it is not for other people. It's for me. Therefore, so of course, Muhammad received, for example, let me see one of them that it is not verbally in the Quran, but its fulfillment is in the Quran, like the order of chapters. And it was instructed to him to put this way, that way, but we see the result of that in the Quran. But we don't have the words telling Muhammad, put this chapter here or this verse here, because the order of the revelation was different.
So then you wouldn't have a problem with the statement that I made that Muhammad received other wahi apart from the Quran. You would just say that whatever that other wahi is was only for him and is not relevant for us today for guidance. For
Absolutely.
mankind.
It was for him, for personal use. And in fact, It was for his time when he was a leader. Maybe he was guided by God on certain things, but we are not responsible, no one responsible, unless he tells people which is in the Quran. Therefore, anything we are responsible is the Quran. The personal wahi to him or to me or to you, other people are not responsible. And in fact, the Quran specifically, the word hadith, when the Quran mentions, is almost always I use, because one place maybe hadith Musa, it is event of Musa is mentioned, which is the verse in the Quran. But hadith other than revelation, including that verse, other than revelation, is always negative in the Quran, the word hadith. And the Quran is ahsan al-hadith, the best hadith, but other hadith is called hadithan yuftara, the fabricated hadith, or فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ, which hadith besides after God and his words do they follow? And when we look at two hadiths in conjunction with Muhammad is mentioned in the Quran, one is he's telling to others, and he's telling, and its distribution is prohibited. In fact, the Quran rebukes those who distributed those hadiths, the word of Muhammad. In another verse, the listening of that hadith is criticized. Why you are listening to the hadith of Muhammad? Therefore, for hadith, in order to happen, it needs to be heard and also needs to be conveyed, reported to other people. Very interestingly, prophetically, the Quran criticized these both tasks of listening to Muhammad's hadith or narrating to another person. This is not by coincidence, because the language of the Quran is prophetic. Like the word Sunna, you tend to use, you follow the Quran alone. You should know better, my dear brother, that the word Sunna cannot be used for any other person. Sunnah means laws, and it is always used in the Quran, sunnatillah. وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. It means God's law. It is really rebellion to the Quran, disrespect to God's word, and of course to Muhammad too, because he believed in the Quran. It is disrespect to take this terminology, which is always used, sunnatullah, 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 to take it, to make it Sunnati Muhammad, is like telling God, you don't know your religion, we are going to teach you. It is arrogance and or ignorance of the Quran. It is both. And therefore, I say for you, if you have respect to Quran or to Muhammad, don't use the word Sunnah for Muhammad's deeds, so-called deeds that is narrated. Find another word, make up, everything is fabrication, make up another word, but don't distort the meaning of that word, which is specifically used for God, God's law. It's not Muhammad's Sunnah. It's not Moses' Sunnah. It's not Isa's Sunnah. Okay, my brother? Now, come to your arguments. Come to the verses that bothered you, that you think that may justify hadith and fabricated Sunnah.
Well, I would just first like to suggest to you, since you are saying that chapter 6, verse 19, in your view, is addressing the guidance that we are supposed to be following, to me, the title Muhammad was given only the Quran is rather misleading, because you are admitting here that he was given something else besides the Quran, but it's just not necessary for us to follow.
Yes, so I do agree it is incomplete statement, but within the context, people, because it is titled, the Quran was given as the source of guidance and source of Islam, and it is repeated throughout the book. Therefore, over there it is given half, but if you look at others, you will fill the blank. The fill the blank is as the source of guidance for us. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, you are right. It is, if you take it literally, that part, it may be misunderstood. Go ahead.
Right. So one of the verses that I presented in the article, just a simple one, because I know you will agree, in chapter 66, verse 3, it says, when the Prophet disclosed the hadith to some of his wives, then one of them spread it, and God revealed it to him. He recognized part of it, and he denied part of it. So when he informed her, she said, who informed you of this? He said, I was informed by the knowledgeable, the ever aware. So we know the content of this is not found in the Quran. Yet when his wife asked him who told him about this, he says that God told him about this. So this is proof of concept that he did receive other wahi from Allah. But in this case, I would agree with you that this really doesn't make a difference to us as far as following our guidance today. But I just wanted to show at a minimum right now that this proves that he did receive other wahi apart from the Quran. Now, when we talk about other wahi that we need to understand and follow, the verse that I would turn us to is chapter 2, verse 143 and 144, where it speaks about two qiblas mentioned there. And I'll present what I'm saying about it, and then I will let you respond to give your understanding of these verses. So it says, as such, we have made you a balanced, impartial nation so that you may be witnesses over the people, and that the messenger may be witness over you. We did not make the focal point or qibla that you came on, except so that we may know who follows the messenger from those who turn on their heels. It was a big deal indeed, except for those whom God had guided. God was not to waste your acknowledgement. God is kind and compassionate over the people. So it is describing a situation in which the messenger was on a qibla, okay? And he says that this was a test for the people to see who would follow the messenger. The next verse says, we see the shifting of your face towards the sky. We thus set for you a focal point or a qibla that will be pleasing to you. You shall set yourself towards the restricted temple or al-Masjid al-Haram, and wherever you may be, you shall all set yourselves towards it. So those who have been given the book know it is the truth from their Lord. God is not oblivious of what you do. So my point about these verses is that there's two qiblas being mentioned. The one in verse 143 and a second qibla is being mentioned in 144. The identity of the qibla mentioned in verse 144 is clearly al-Masjid al-Haram. Now, the identity of the qibla in verse 143 isn't clear from the verse. And from my research in the Quran, it is not clear what that first qibla was mentioned in chapter 143. So my question for you, Brother Edip, is if Muhammad was only receiving and following the Quran for guidance, what was this first qibla mentioned in verse 143, and how did he know how to follow this?
Now, from here, what I understand, Prophet Muhammad was on qibla turning to Masjid al-Haram, and later Muhammad changes the qibla to another place, okay? Most likely maybe Jerusalem. And then the verse says, now turn back to your old qibla, which is it is the first qibla. And then this change create problems for Muslims because they were comfortable with being with the people of the book and turning to their qibla, and created a kind of more unity between them and people of the book. Now, therefore, this is the first verses about injunction about the qibla. Therefore, previously, I'm sorry, what I'm doing. Okay. Previously, it was based on custom, Muhammad was turning, and there was nothing, no verse against that. Therefore, based on that, he made a decision as a leader when they immigrated to Medina to change Qibla. And then after he changed it, God wanted him to change back to the original Qibla, to the first Qibla. Therefore, the first Qibla became a test for people.
So
first, they were on Masjid al-Haram. Then after immigration to Medina, because of hostility between people in Masjid al-Haram, they turned to Jerusalem. And then, this is my understanding. If I am wrong, that's fine. But I think my understanding is initially they were turning to Masjid al-Haram like everyone else, Muhammad following on the basically many customs coming through his people. And there was no verse against that. And then when he turned, then he says, okay, let's turn to Jerusalem. Now it is occupied by our enemies. And then the Quran, after perhaps, I am making an assumption, after the Fatih of Medina, Mecca, and then says, now you can turn back to your original Qibla. But this created some problem for people because they were happy with the second Qibla, with the new Qibla.
Now, as I said, the Qibla in 144 is clearly Masjid Haram. There's no dispute with that. Now, but in 143, I know you're saying it went from Masjid Haram to Jerusalem and then back to Masjid Haram. But in 143, which Qibla are they talking about there? Are they talking about the one on Jerusalem, or are they talking about Masjid Haram?
Masjid al-Haram became test. Going back to that Qibla is test.
Yes, but I'm saying here, it says we did not make the focal point that you came on, meaning that you were on previously. And then there's a shift to the new Qibla in 144. So it doesn't make sense to me to say that the Qibla being mentioned in 43 would also be Masjid al-Haram, because then they're turning from the same thing. So you would have to say that in 143, that Qibla being mentioned there is Jerusalem.
Listen, regardless how you construct this verse, regardless how we construct, how we understand, it doesn't bring anything besides the Quran, because these are the first verses, or these are the verses about the Qibla, and therefore they are, we and others, we are supposed to follow this one. The other one, it was personal leadership decision made, and which was not against the Quran. Therefore, whether it was this Qibla X or Y or Z doesn't matter. I think this argument is irrelevant. Whatever Qibla they are following, whether it is about X, Y, and Z doesn't matter. This verse says, the previous Qibla, you change it, and this one, now turn to this one, and this will make, this will be a test. And therefore, what you want to squeeze in here, that I am curious about. What you want to...
Okay, the point is, because you are claiming that Muhammad's authority in terms of the deen of Islam was only by this Quran, okay, you are now saying that it was his own personal decision apart from Allah to make this Qibla from Masjid al-Haram to Jerusalem. And I don't see how your Quran alone framework provides a way in order to do that. Why? Because if you are limiting Muhammad's authority to the Quran, well, the Qibla is most certainly a part of the deen.
No,
so
no, it was not.
You
before this verse, it was not part of the deen. Let me tell you again. Before revelation of the verse, it was not part of the deen. It was part of the strategy. It was part of social, political decision. Therefore, Muhammad as a political leader, as long as it is not against the Quran, he could make decisions. And decision based on consultation, he was making decisions. Therefore, you are collapsing two roles of Muhammad. One, when he was like a leader, when there is no verse about something, about Qibla, when there is no any limitation, he could do. Because God says, if it's not revealed to you, in chapter 5, I think, verse 101, you are free to do whatever you do. But after the verse comes, he doesn't have. Therefore, he and other believers religiously were obliged to follow the verses of the Quran, but they were obliged to follow him as a leader. Therefore, the Quran says, "Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasulah wa ulul amri minkum." When we follow the ulul amr from us, people in charge, when we follow them, it doesn't mean they can make up. They should get revelation or make their decision is based on revelation from God. It is religious. It is a unquestionable stuff. No, it is leadership decision. You are confusing Muhammad's leadership decision with later divine revelation, which we are responsible. Muhammad is not alive, my dear friend. And if Muhammad was here, now he couldn't change it because now there is verse about the Qibla. But if there was no, of course, now we can do even, there are not verses in the Quran, we can do decisions either here or there. We can put black color or white color is a shirt, correct? Therefore, but if the revelation comes, says, well, don't use this color, then after that, we are responsible of that. Therefore, it really doesn't contradict with our position. Okay, what else you have? I expect you have at least 100 reasons, verses in the Quran to justify all these volumes, thousands and thousands of books. You come to, and one of them here, as we see it, it really doesn't justify because you have an assumption, false assumption, that Muhammad's leadership decision must be based on revelation, which is not, and or we are responsible. No, Muhammad's decision about that time, about people, we are not responsible of this decision. Even now we have video Muhammad making decision about people. For example, Muhammad tells people, have more children. Oh, Muhammad said this must be revelation from God, and they follow it. No, that time perhaps they had to. There were few people in the world, there were few, they needed to multiply. But now go tell Bangladeshi or Palestinian, have more children, it's stupid. Therefore, at one time, it could be reasonable decision of the leader. At another time, location, it could be unreasonable. Okay, what is your second argument?
Well, I just want to comment on what you just said.
Go ahead.
The problem with your explanation, the problem that I see is you are saying that Muhammad made this decision on his own, apart from God, and he told the people, and he also did himself, prayed towards the direction of Jerusalem. Now, that is fine. That's your understanding. What I'm saying doesn't match up with your foundational principle is you are trying to put this action under the category of him as a leader during that time. And I'm saying that the direction of prayer that people are praying in when they were originally doing it towards Masjid al-Haram, as you're saying, switching it to Jerusalem and this sort of Qibla change is not merely an action taken by a leader. It's not like, oh, Muhammad, where do we set up the fruits in the market?
How do you know? Where do you get this idea? Where do you get? If there is no verse, there's no revelation, he is, as long as he doesn't go against other verses, he was, as a leader, he could choose this or that. They were equally. There's nothing immoral about that decision. It doesn't contradict the morality. It doesn't contradict the verse of the Quran because this verse came afterwards. It doesn't contradict the rules of logic. It doesn't contradict the science. Where do you find the problem? Why you want to restrict him?
No. The problem is that you're restricting him by the Quran, and then you're saying that he
My
could
brother,
make
this verse was not
decision.
there before. When the verse prohibiting lesser alcohol, when does come doesn't come before, Muhammad could tell people, well, drink a little bit and don't drink this time, or drink this one, this is more delicious than the other. There is no verse about alcohol, let's say, a prohibition of intoxicants. Therefore, he could say that. And there is nothing about revelation. You are missing major point. After this verse, Muhammad has no choice. But because before this verse about Qibla was not part of the religion, and God did not impose on him. But when the time comes, God says, no, you turn there. And now it is a test. But Muhammad as a leader, he was making decision about, after consultation, making decision. If I were there, I had to follow this decision. Not because he was a messenger, but because he was the leader, we accepted, we chose. And after the consultation, if it is not against ma'ruf, وَلَا يَعْصِينَكَ فِي مَعْرُوفٍ, they should not oppose you fi ma'ruf, something that known facts. When it is known, when there is a reason for that, you cannot oppose him.
Yes, so there are also other verses in Surah Baqarah that come before that speak about the Qibla of the various people, of the people of the book. Yeah. So in verse 125, it says, and we made the sanctuary or the house to be a model for the people and a security. Utilize the place of Abraham to reach out. We had entrusted to Abraham and Ishmael, you shall purify my sanctuary for those who visit, those who are devoted, and for those who kneel and prostrate. So this is clearly talking about the house that Abraham had, which our position is that was talking about Masjid Haram. Now, if you're saying that it's not, then I have to know what it is.
Well, it doesn't matter. Like, listen, assuming your sequence of Qiblas or your choice X, Y, Z, I say it is irrelevant. Why should I repeat myself?
Right.
It is irrelevant because the previous decisions, he had the choice to do that, to do other way around. It was not against any verse of the Quran until these verses came. Finished, done. The end of the story.
Right. So again, you are saying that Muhammad, unless he has a verse from the Quran telling him the opposite, he can arbitrarily make these decisions and choices to pray in a certain direction.
Of course, he could listen. He could say, people, we love the color of white. Let's have white clothes on us while praying. And then later says, I don't like white anymore. It gets dirty. Let's make it orange color. And then let's say a verse came, made it a part of the religion, part of the prayer while you are praying color. Well, you did this, but now this color, follow this color, you use this color. At that time it is, but if it doesn't mention, if there is no verse about that, Muhammad could have said that. There is no verse about the color of the shirt during the prayer. Therefore, Muhammad could have told people during wartime, you people put earth color on you, because during the war, we are in war, they will see you from far. Change your clothes while you are praying, or while you are here, we are going there. Put this earth color on you. Don't wear shiny clothes on. Makes sense. In that context, he could make such a decision, but it is not part of the religion. But when later becomes part of the religion, he's responsible afterwards, not before. Very simple. Okay.
Yes, but I'm saying every time that you draw an analogy to this, the analogy, in my view, does not fit. The idea of what they're wearing in battle or what they're selling at the markets is not analogous to the direction of prayer.
No, that it is not analogous because a verse came afterwards. But again, if there was a verse came afterwards making a particular clothes, we say, well, initially he was free to choose any color, but afterwards God says, no, now you choose this color. Simple. Honestly, as people on the street, it's not too difficult to understand this one. Think about it later.
We're not going to beat a dead horse. People can make their own
kill the
decisions.
horse. We destroy the Qibla. It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
So second point is a fundamental principle of Quran alone, which maybe we both didn't make clear, is that the Quran alone position is that the Quran is fully detailed for us, okay? As far as practicing the deen and adhering to Allah's guidance, etc. This is correct, your position, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, as you know, you're familiar with dealing with the typical Sunni argument. If the Quran is fully detailed, the questions come, where do we get the details for the prayer? Where do we get the details for the Hajj? Where all of these questions come. But let's just make it simple and start with the prayer. Where do you get the details for the prayer? Now, I know that you've written an article on this, but just one simple question. Let's take, because if somebody's going to pray, and I'm trying to teach someone how to pray, they're going to say, all right, Brother Jake or Brother Edip, how do I begin my prayer? That's the first question. So hey, I would like to know.
Can we postpone this question just 2 minutes later, because you had another verse I want to go over there too.
Oh, I mean we can go through the other verses.
The other verse too, and then we come to prayer, honestly. Because okay. The other verse, because many people are misled by the other verse.
What was the other verse?
About the angels, the number of angels.
Okay, so
go to that one, because you had 2 arguments. Yeah, I expect 100 arguments, so that because
well, obviously, for the interest of time, we can't.
Thousands of books, my gosh, to justify thousands of books, you find in the Quran measly 2 verses, and one of them already has no.
Go. I have no problem discussing the other verses I listed.
Go the other verse too. Just one more, time. So that we deal with that one.
Okay. So it says, God has granted you victory. This is in chapter 3, verses 123 to 126. It says, God had granted you victory at Badr while you had been the lesser. So be aware of God that you may be thankful. Now, I want everybody to notice that all of the language is in the past tense. Allah is telling us in the Quran and speaking to the messenger about something that already happened. Verse 124 says, when you said, in the past tense, to those who acknowledge, quote, is it not enough for you that your Lord would supply you with 3,000 of the controllers or angels sent down? Indeed, if you are patient and are aware, and they come and attack you, he will supply you with 5,000 of the well-trained controllers. God did not give you this except as good news to you, and so that your hearts may be assured with it. Victory is only from God, the noble, the wise. So the point of this verse is to tell us that this is a reminder to Muhammad of something that happened in the past tense. He quotes us what exactly Muhammad said to his companions when they were going to a battle, and Allah gave this news to them to make their hearts at ease, to provide them with tranquility, that he would be supporting them with the controllers or angels, which we know are part of the unseen knowledge. So the original reference for this is not in the Quran. Obviously, this is wahi that was directly given to the messenger, which he then gave to his companions, which is now then quoted in the Quran as to what is said.
Okay.
Now, we cannot say that this is a trivial matter of being told, because if you came to me and you said, Jake, Allah told me that there is an angel who is going to support you when you go and do this. This is not a trivial matter. They were going into war where this was life and death, and they were being told something very important, that God would be supporting them with angels. So this is showing us that the messenger indeed did receive other wahi apart from the Quran that was extremely relevant, a life and death matter for these people.
Okay, thank you. It is interesting. First of all, The Quran's language is very precise. In fact, I have 19 questions for atheists in Turkish. Unfortunately, 10 questions we could translate to English. Hopefully, the rest of it will be translating. And half of that is about the language of the Quran, about the miracles of the Quran, half of it philosophical arguments. Now, here you are making a major mistake because the language of the Quran, as I say, is precise. This is not past tense. You're relying on your argument on past tense. It's not past tense, it is present. In fact, while he's reading this verse, this is happening exactly that time. When he was giving this verse, exactly while he was reciting this happening simultaneous. I will show you the example of is. The example of is means when, and you will see very interesting, exactly parallel when something is said, an event happening exactly at the same time, it is used in present tense. This is taqulu is mudari, is not madi, is not past tense, it is present continuous tense. In fact, our translation is wrong. It's not really reflecting. It's
okay. Well, my brother, I'm reading your translation, and all of the wording in those 3 verses is in the past tense. So, in fact, you are contradicting your own translation.
Listen, okay. My translation is not perfect. I continuously find errors in my translation. Every translation is doomed to have some errors. But when you reason, here it is, God bless you. Thank God we have the original of the Quran. Is taqulu. It is not very difficult. If you want to nitpick on my translation, you will find few errors. But if you want to find what is the Quran saying, and here it is, you have little Arabic, that's even enough for you. It will take you a few minutes to verify it, that taqulu is not past tense, it is mudari, means present continuous tense. And therefore, when it's present continuous tense, while this verse revealed, Muhammad was saying exactly what this verse saying. And therefore, this very verse was saying, Istaqulu lil mu'minina. This is very literary, fantastic use of language. In fact, similar one I will show you in the Quran. I checked the word is, the verses that start with is. Fantastic. Almost all of them are in past tense, but the one is present tense. It is talking about the events simultaneously happening. Istaqulu, when you were saying to believers, أَلَّا يَكْفِيكُمْ أَن يَمُدَّكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ بِصَلَاتٍ. Okay, that part is what Muhammad just was reciting this verse, when this verse came to him. And let's see, do you know a little Arabic, my brother?
Yeah, I'm listening.
If it was past tense, it will be is qulta, when you said. But it is not is qulta, is taqulu, when you are saying. Now here it is, I want to check is, watch it. And here I am bringing the usage of is. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ, when your Rabb, your Lord, said لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. إِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. These are all past tense. وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. وَإِنْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ, we are مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. This is happening the same time. وَيَسْتَعِينُ فِي ذَلِكُمْ رَبِّكُمْ. وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا بِكُمْ. This is past tense. وَإِذَا وَعَدْنَا. وَإِذْ وَعَدْنَا. This is past tense. وَإِذْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى. When we gave to Musa, is past tense. Here it is. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى. Past. I'm going to find one present tense. وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ. This is وَإِذْ قُلْنَا. These are all past tense. Watch.
So wait,
hold on.
I just want to be clear about something. Are you saying that it can mean past tense, but it doesn't in that verse? Or you saying
no, it's not past tense. It is present tense, that verse.
I understand that, but are you saying that grammatically it cannot mean that it's in the past tense?
Of course, it is present tense, because you see the usage of Isa almost always is used with past tense. When you were saying this, when we gave, when we did. But here, I want to find a verse. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا, when we did البيت وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ. Here it is. 2:127, chapter 2:127. It is present tense. Exactly, this is very different than the past tense that we had before. See, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. And the translation is, when Abraham and Ismail were raising the foundations of the temple, when Ismail were raising and they were praying at the same time. These are simultaneous two events happening. While they were raising the foundation, at the same time, they were praying. Therefore, these two events happening simultaneously, therefore, وَإِذَا يَرْفَعُ is used. And similarly, when you go look at the verse, where is it? 123, 124? 3, 124. Yep. وَإِذْ تَقُولُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, you are saying to believers, أَنْ لَيَكْفِيكُمْ. Exactly this, whatever he was saying, and this is about that event. This is happening exactly at the same time. And God says, if you are patient, if you are resistant, then, and you are also aware of bad things, stay away from bad things, and then he will supply you with 5,000.
My brother, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't know if I disconnected, but for the past minute I couldn't hear you. So go on with what you were saying.
And we are disconnected. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know. Hold on. Not disconnected. We hear each other. And show small and what is it? Okay, I need to finish up this one. Okay, we are there.
Okay.
Now. Okay. So far, this verse is not supporting what we are saying. It's not past tense. Do you have any other?
Are you saying that it's not past tense because it doesn't use the word is?
No, is, it doesn't say is qulte. It says is taqulu. You are saying. When
now,
you are saying.
When we talk about this issue, it's mentioned again in chapter 8, verses 9 and 10. If you want to bring that.
I made a mistake regarding recording, unfortunately. I stopped recording. Now it's recording again. Are you recording too?
Mine says recording.
Yeah, I wanted to share screen. I pushed the wrong button. And let me open up this share screen.
Oh, so yeah, that's what happened when I couldn't hear you, I think.
Yeah, which verse are you?
Chapter 8, verse 9 and 10.
8, verse 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the same incident, and you have as the heading, the invisible soldiers of God.
Yeah, this is also present tense, mashallah.
Okay.
The verse is so, yeah.
Let me just read it. You implored your Lord, and he answered you. I will provide you with 1,000 controllers as defenders. God did not do this except to give you good news, and that your hearts may be assured by it. Victory is only from God. God is noble, wise. So again, at least in your translation, it reflects that this was a past action and past statement.
You are imploring. Again, it is present tense. Is tastaghithuna.
Well, as I'm saying to you, then you must edit this translation.
Of course, I will correct the translation because it's literally is not. The Quran is very accurate. Sometimes translations, I am not the one. You see, Muhammad Assad is a little closer. You were praying. It's not you were. You are praying when you are praying.
Why, yeah, but it says.
Praying.
Yes, but it says you were praying.
Yeah.
While you are. I'm saying that I cannot find a single English translation that reflects you actually saying it's present tense.
It doesn't say in kunta is kunta tastaghithuna. It doesn't say what you were praying. In fact, it says istastaghithuna while you are praying. You are doing what? Right now. Rabbakum.
Okay. So my question is, why are all of the other translators, including yourself, translating it incorrectly?
Well, again,
what led you to translate it?
It is a matter of inattention, lack of attention. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the details of the Quran. For example, let me give you one example. Do you remember the verse, whatever you do, everything is from God, and another verse says, good deeds is from God, bad is from you. In one verse says everything is from God. In another one says good is from you, bad. Good is from God, bad is from you. And this is mistranslation, and we didn't pay attention to detail. In fact, in one of the verses, min Allah, in another one, min indillah. And therefore, min Allah means directly from God, min indillah indirectly, and it makes difference. But when we translate, we didn't pay attention to that little difference. We translated both from God, but in fact, the Quran very precisely using one is min Allah, the other min indillah. Therefore, there is no contradiction. It doesn't create contradiction. But our translations, many translations, I corrected my translation. But look other translations, because of not perfect carefulness, they mistranslate and create a problem. And it happens another contradiction, I tell you, that because of lack of perfect attention. For example, you will see some translation says, we send messenger to every community. Another verse says, the reason we didn't send messenger to that community, and you will see this error in contradiction in many translations. Well, in fact, the word community in two verses, they are not exactly the same word. In Arabic, one is al-qarya, the other is ummah, and two different words is used. But when we are not careful, stick with these words, and then it creates problem. Therefore, if your reason to find error, I would really encourage you to go on my translation, suggest corrections. I'm continuously correcting, improving the translation.
That's what I'm here for. That's what we're doing now.
Beautiful. And you see, Muhammad Asad came closer using word praying, but still put the past tense, but tried to make it past continuous one. And he noticed that one, but not perfectly. Therefore, we need to improve this translation. But in Arabic, 100%, there is no doubt, it is elementary question. It's not difficult. Anyone know elementary Arabic will know istastaghithuna is present tense. And the other one was also present tense. Okay, now let's come to your other arguments.
Did you want to do another verse from there, or?
Well, I think these two verses shows that really you have no really basis to insert volumes of fabricated hadith into the Quran because you're misunderstanding these verses or assumptions on these verses. And let's go to answer your question about prayer.
Okay, and just one more comment about these verses. I am not an expert in Arabic. I don't claim to be, but from my limited Arabic studies, which I did study in university, these verbs that are being used are what they call an imperfect tense, which means past continuous. And this is why Muhammad Asad translated as were praying. Why? Because it refers to a past action that is continuous. And it is up for the viewers to do their own research and come up with their own conclusions about it. But like I said, we've talked about that enough. I don't think we need to beat a dead horse. We killed him 3 times now.
Well, it is, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and what was your question about?
Weak arguments about prayer. How do you pray and stuff? How do you do Hajj?
Okay. Yeah. If you want to deal with that.
Yeah, shortly.
Yes. What I would say is that because the Quran alone is based on the principle that it's fully detailed for the deen, for us to practice the deen, and for our guidance, then the assumption, of course, is that it gives us the details for the things that it speaks about that we need to understand. Now, if I have a new Muslim, and when I was a convert, of course, you know, although you don't agree with the mosque, but let's say someone comes up to you and says, yes, Brother Edip, I was a Christian, now I accept Islam, I want to learn how to pray. How do I begin to pray? That's going to be the first question. So my question for you is, where in the Quran does it tell us how to begin the prayer, and how do we actually begin the prayer? How do we do this?
Beautiful. Yeah, this has been a sticky question. In fact, Imam Shafi'i tried to use it against Hanafi, Imam Abu Hanif, who is rejecting Hadith, who is following Quran alone, and therefore he was really killed during Abbasid times, and during Umayyad times he was also imprisoned. But later a sect was fabricated in his name because he was a hero that time. And this is one of the major questions. How do I pray? Where can I put my hands while I'm praying, while I'm standing? For example, where should I put my hair? Now, when you have a details of the prayer in a book, volumes of books, and you say, well, we need these books. Why? Because we have details in this book. I say, well, because you have more details in a book, it doesn't make this book a necessary book. I said, these are fabricated books. Now, show me details in the Quran, that details in this book in the Quran. If you cannot show details in this book in the Quran, then Quran needs this book. This is really a vicious argument. It's circular argument. I say, well, those details are fabricated details. We don't need those details. You say, well, how can I find these fabricated details in the Quran? If you cannot find these fabricated details in the Quran, then I will not follow the Quran alone. This is, you start with an assumption that the details you are looking for must be in the Quran, must be part of the prayer. No, it is not. First of all, question that one. You see, like about ablution. The Quran talks about ablution. One verse describes the ablution. Few words, that's enough. Everyone understands, simple. But the ulama, they didn't find it. They were exactly thinking like rabbis, which in the chapter 2, the Quran says, when God asked them to sacrifice a heifer, the symbol of Pharaoh's religion and culture, still some Jewish people were under the culture of their oppressor, their religion. They were still had respect to heifer, which is symbol of Pharaoh. And therefore the Quran wants them physically sacrifice a heifer so that they cut their vulnerability towards that symbol, the symbol of their enemy. And then that was the purpose. The purpose was, this was the sacred symbol of Pharaoh, who claimed to be the Lord, their Lord, who is a slave owner, to sacrifice that one physically, psychologically, to save themselves from that. And then what happens? The rabbis missed this point. They deliberately. They wanted to pull their focus, instead of to cutting their psychological connection with the religion of their oppressor. They say, what is the color of heifer? Whether it is in barn or in what? In farm. Whether it is old or young. They ask these details. And the Quran criticized them for asking these details and says almost they were not able to fulfill what was ordered them. Correct? And therefore there is a reason why the Quran in the beginning of the Quran gives us this example. Says, do not ask too many questions. It makes it difficult. And the same way they ask question, where should I put my hands? Goodness sake, in Hadith books, I checked, I counted, I think in Bukhari, there were 98 hadiths alone, 98 hadiths about where to put your hand while standing. When you say, I was in post office a while ago when you were calling me, I waited in the line. They say, wait in the line, wait here. And then I didn't ask anyone, well, you tell me wait in the line here, stand here in the line. It is not detailed. Tell me where should I put my hands. Did I ask the guys there? The post office people? No, I didn't ask. I could stand this way, and I could stand this way. I could stand this way, correct? Any way I want. Or I could maybe hold my ear, my phone, any way I want. It was up to me. But when I asked for details, stupid details, if there was a rabbi, a mullah, an imam over there, a hadith follower, would say, well, according to regulation, you must put one hand in your pocket, the other hand like this, or your hand like this, correct? If they see I'm asking stupid question, perhaps they would make fun of me providing this. Exactly hadith book did. And they came up with all sorts of combination. According to some hadith, Prophet Muhammad while praying put his hand here under his belly. Hanafite do this. Or he put on his heart. Malikis, I think Hanbali is doing this. Or did this, Jafari do this. Well, there are three combinations. Well, wherever you put your hand, don't put your hand in the pocket of person next to you or somewhere else. That's it. This is one of the details. Listen, 98 hadiths about this detail. Or how many rak'ah? Well, where do you get the idea of rak'ah? There must be such a detail. Therefore, fabricating detail, distorting the meaning of the words, and then created volume of contradictory description of how to pray. First of all, according to hadith, you cannot pray. No one can pray. It is a big lie. Contradictory description. In hadith book, there is no video clip of Prophet Muhammad how he still prayed. There are words describing, and the Quran says sajda. Oh, I don't understand when the Quran says sajda, but when hadith says, oh, it is understandable. Big lie. Or the Quran says stand, I don't understand. But when hadith says, I understand, no, hadith doesn't have a better description, contradictory description, and frivolous description. And besides, the word prayer may be a wrong word. The word salat in the Quran means support, being in connection, being in solidarity with. In fact, there is a verse describing the meaning of it. وَمَا كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى وما كذب وما كذب وما صلى ولكن وما صدق وما صلى ولكن كذب وتولى. Yes, I apologize. I just somehow busy mentally. وما صدق وما صلى ولكن كذب وتولى. This is from the Quran, 2 verses. Do you understand the meaning of it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
وَمَا صَدَّقَ وَمَا صَلَّى. He didn't approve it, confirm it. وَمَا صَلَّى. He didn't do the salah. Let's put X. We don't know. He didn't do the salah. وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ. But he denied it.
He rejected and turned away.
Rejected. And reject means, rejecting is the opposite of sadaqa. And وَتَوَلَّى, and turned away.
Turned away, yes.
Turned away is the opposite of Salah, because this is antonyms are used here. And therefore, Salah means turning towards, being in touch, have interest in, being in solidarity with. For example, the Quran says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. God and his angels, his controllers, they support Muhammad. All believers, you also support him, the messenger. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then in another verse says, هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور. He, God, and his angels are supporting you, the believers, to take you out of darkness to light. In another verse tells Muhammad, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً, take from their wealth, sadaqah, support for for people, support for good causes. تُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا, by this way you purify them. وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ. Do salat to them means support them. Your support, your encouragement, your support makes them feel good. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, this is salat. Salat means being solidarity. Salat al-Jumu'ah is congregational solidarity, means people in a particular location, they are invited for community solidarity. It is psychological, social, political, and financial, intellectual solidarity of people. And also solidarity with God. Salat with God, it is individual, between individual and the Creator. It's communication, solidarity. You give promise to God that you will be asking help from Him alone. You will not be the servant of other people. You will not serve, you will serve only universal values like the truth. You will search the truth, you will serve the truth. You will serve justice, God's attribute. You will serve salam, peace, which is God's attribute. Therefore, these are the things you promise to God, and you ask help from God. Give me guidance and help me out. And you ask, you basically declare your solidarity. You turn to God. And this is it. And the rest of it, well, while you are asking help, you can raise your hands like this. You can fall prostrate, no problem. This, for example, when I say hi to you, I can smile, I can shake your hands, or I can do like this, hi, or I can say hi, five, like this. The important thing is me greeting you, being in solidarity with you. While I'm saying I am supporting you, my friend, I can express my support physically too, but in many different ways. There is no problem. Therefore, we are stuck on the rituals, on the especially details fabricated by others. We magnify those details, those rituals. We ignore the purpose of salat. The purpose of salat with God is remembrance of God, and for a while isolating ourselves from daily occupation, the things that bothers us, focusing on our purpose, our Creator, our eternal life, and putting things on focus. Do you understand? Putting things in its place and ask help from God. It's meditation. And meanwhile, you do this physical, no problem. But the Quran says you can do the salat with God while you are traveling. Therefore, while you are driving your car, you can do. That means bowing and bowing physically, ruku and sujood, not necessarily physical. According to the Quran, it is mostly mental. For example, enter Egypt, sujood. Sujadan says, enter Egypt. You cannot enter while you are crawling on the face down thing. It means obey the laws, the rules. But meanwhile,
of course,
we express it as humans. When I say hi to you, I smile, put a smile on my face. No problem, it's a good thing. Therefore, showing our obedience to God and our submission to God, also doing prostration is a fantastic thing. There is no problem with that. Physically also, it has also physical implication. But it's not necessary. The Quran says if you are riding, you can do it. And the length of it is not important, is not necessary, because you can cut it short. And what else says? Ablution is not necessary, because if you don't have water, just have intention and touch some rocks, have connection with the soil, with our nature. You know, soil, the earth, and water. We come from both. Therefore, if you don't have water, touch the soil. Know that you come from there. Be humble. that you are going back to soil, but your mind will go back to God. And then the only thing that God said, do not communicate with me, do not come in solidarity with me when you don't know what you are saying. If you are drunk, don't come. Simple. That means the most important thing of Salat that we need to focus is to communicate mentally with our Creator, to have connection, Salat, with our Creator. The rest of it is details, and it is so exaggerated in volumes of book, contradictory, that I don't need them. Especially in order to have those frivolous details, fabricated details, which is where to put my hand. Well, I don't need those hadiths. Either way, here or here or here, it will be according to hadith, one of the hadiths. If I follow this itsy bitsy frivolous fabrication, the color of the heifer's hair, and then in order to do that, I need to idolize Muhammad, and I need to kill people, stoning to death. I need to disparage women, put them down. And if I need to become an Arab nationalist, and I need to kill people for frivolous things, I need to prohibit the things that God did not prohibit. And I believe in so many silly superstition. Well, better not to pray at all. I need to pray, yes.
So you're saying that the major function of Salah is not necessarily physical, although it can have physical implications. Exactly. And the finer details for these physical rituals are not necessarily, they're not really necessary. You can do it as you please. Of course, I don't agree with that, but I want to press you on that a little bit. Why? Because as your former colleague and friend, Rashad Khalifa, and also yourself, I've seen he has a tutorial on YouTube of how he did the prayer. He acts it out. He explains why it is. Also, you have written articles on it. And you have tried to give details from the Quran about the prayer, about the times, about certain things you say in the prayer. In fact, in chapter 10, verse 10, you use this verse to justify how one person should end their prayer. It says, their prayer in it is, glory be to our God, and their greeting in it is peace. And the end of their prayer is, praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So according to this, you have used this verse in the past to justify how someone should end their prayer, instead of the traditional way that Sunnis end the prayer by saying, Assalamu alaikum. You are telling us that we should end it by saying, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So I want to know if you still hold this position in respect to this verse.
Can you don't check the verse, whether it is about dua or salat? Is it about salat or not?
It is not about salah.
Okay, then it's not necessary then.
Okay, but you have used this argument in the past.
Yes, it is better, it is good, but I cannot say we have to do that. I cannot say that. But it gives you an idea that it is good to do that.
Yes, I understand that, but if we're talking about salah and
listen, based on a verse, first of all, my salat is about me. I don't tell people you have to pray this one. If someone prays 5 times a day, absolutely fine, absolutely no problem. If does 4 units or 2 units, is up to them. Therefore, I am not going to discuss these details, it is up to the person, and it is not part of it. Therefore, it is indulgent on that. It is indulgent on the color of the heifer. Absolutely, I will not go into that rabbit hole with you. That's exactly, they distort, they distract from the main point about zikrullah, and they not only distract, they insert volumes of fabricated hadiths full of lies based on this excuse. The more we did indulge in this discussion, the more we'll end up fabricating lies. Therefore, I'm not going to that. Whatever, however you pray, it is between you and God. As long as do not associate partners with God in your prayer. أقم الصلاة للذكر, God says, and وإن المساجد لله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. Then do not mention Muhammad or Isa or this, because God says, all people come to one word common between us. It is God. God is inviting us, Muhammad and Jesus, all of them invited to God alone. Not God plus Jesus, God plus Muhammad. And this is fabricated hadith in order to create absolutely a religion which is a shirk. It is God plus Muhammad religion. And therefore, okay, I refuse to go into details of discussion this, because this is exactly how this, they basically created a hole. And then the moment you create a hole, they inserted some little bugs, and then mouse, and then pig, and then elephant. All they magnify this hole. And therefore, I'm not going to indulge. However you pray, as long as you pray to God alone, you don't commemorate Muhammad in your prayers, and you are not drunk, do it. If you want, you can rotate around yourself, no problem. If you want to go backward, fine. You know, you may like to pray that one, no problem. You want to raise your hands this way or that way, it is up to you, however you feel. But majority of people pray this way, no problem. I will go pray with them like this. But that's not the issue. We create certain things, is not part of the prayer, and then we create laws about that. As I told you, just you should listen. Hadith, where do I put my hand? The stupid question Satan asked, and fabricate 98 hadiths. And in Bukhari, the word aql, check the word aql, thinking, reasoning. You will find, do you think in Bukhari aql? Yes, but not the meaning of the Quran. The Quran has the word aql dozens of times, and promoting, asking people to think, to reason, to reason, to reason. God is says, "Inna Allah yaj'alu risa ala alladhina la ya'qilun." But in Bukhari, the word aql means what? Is about menstruation. Has nothing to do with reason. And there are a few hadiths in Bukhari is about reasoning. The word aql is used for reasoning. It is used in the context to bash women, to insult woman intelligence, says woman's aql is naqas. Hello, there is not, I didn't see a single hadith promoting, telling people to reason. There is no. And why? They have 98 hadiths about where to put their hands. In the Quran, not a single verse. There is a major difference between the teaching of the Quran and the teaching of these fabricators. How, my brother, you can go back to these books? How you do that?
Well, I would just like to say, because I think you have clarified that Rashad Khalifa and yourself in the past have used that verse, chapter 10, verse 10, to promote ending your prayer by Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And you have acknowledged that the word Salah is not even present in the verse. Therefore, I feel that it is a weak argument to do so. And I think that you are seeing that now, that it's not really an argument to be made. Therefore, I think we should move on to the next subject. What do you say we talk about 19 now? Since you're wearing 19.org,
next meeting, not this one. Let's have another meeting.
Okay. You don't want to discuss that.
It's one. Too long. Okay. I'm tired, and there are many calls. I'm cutting them off.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we can discuss 19 Inshallah. Another time if you like.
Jake,
but,
I'm so proud of you. You are so patient. You are such a good. Okay, here it is. I'm going. Okay, I need to go. Go ahead, talk. Finish.
All right. So I would just like to say for the audience that I hope they enjoyed the discussion, and inshallah we will have another discussion next time about 19. But in regards to the prayer and the details and all of the other things, I hope that people can listen carefully, watch us back, message me if you have any questions, and judge for yourself which position makes more sense to the listeners. So inshallah, we will have another discussion about 19, and if we want to further discuss the issue of Quran alone, I'd be happy to do so. And like I said, it's up to the listeners to listen carefully, listen to the arguments from both sides, and make their own conclusions about what is being said.
Peace. Thank you very much.
Okay. Wa alaikum assalam.